Brewery, the Kievit, Zundert 8.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Bows Reviews. Now, I bought this beer thinking I haven't done a Belgian beer in quite a long time, so I thought I'd get a Belgian beer. And guess what? Turns up, it's from the Netherlands. But it is a genuine Trappist beer, so you could class it in a style of its own as a Trappist beer. Now, I was doing some research for this before I'd done this review. By the way, if you hear snoring, that's Percy down there. I've got a nice little rug for him down there. And yeah, he's Sparko. He went for a walk today and barked at everything. Barked at another pug. Little git. Do you think they speak the same language? Probably not. Anyway, I am rambling as usual. This is the Zundert 8. Now, as I say, this is a genuine Trappist beer. And it's I thought Le Trap were the only genuine Trappist brewer from the Netherlands, but it turns out Zundert are as well. And I could sort of half be excused for that because Zundert are probably, well, apart from Spencer, which I believe is no more, that was the American genuine Trappist brewer, they're no more sadly, but the Zundert were only founded as a brewery in 2012. That's when the brewery was actually built, and they are unique in the whole Trappist beer scene in that they don't have the history that the other Trappist brewers have, and they didn't have a recipe book to rely on to hand down, or that was handed down from God knows back when. They had to come up with all these beers themselves. Now, what I really like about this is they only have 2 beers. It very much reminds me of Tint Meadow, who only have 1 beer, but that beer is absolutely outstanding. I'd go as far as to say it's one of my favourite beers of all time, and believe me, I've drunk a lot of fucking different beer, and Tint Meadow stands out for me. It may not be to everyone's taste, but it really is what I like in a beer. But this brewery, they only do 2 beers. They do a quad and a triple, so they're pretty heavy duty, and of course triples are usually quite high in alcohol, and this is no exception. But they do a quad as well, and I'm going to try and get hold of that quad because this sounds really promising. The brewery is actually based, as I say, in the Netherlands, but it's bordering on Belgium. So it's actually in a place called Zundert, which is near the sort of region of Breda, if you know where Breda is in the Netherlands. I've driven through there actually, and it's very close to the Belgian border. And if you know where Hoogstraten is in Belgium, that's quite near the border as well, and that's where it's situated near. And it's actually in a proper Cistercian Trappist abbey, but there's a farm nearby, and there's a reason there's a farm nearby. In that, in the Netherlands, around Zundert, 10% of all the agricultural, certainly the nursery stuff, is grown there. Now, I know the Netherlands are going through a hard time at the moment with the government trying to seize everyone's farm on the premise that it's something to do with saving the fucking planet. I think it's disgusting personally, but again, I'm not going to get into politics on the channel. Whatever your views are on that, you know, you can air them elsewhere, and I'm going to air them elsewhere. I don't want to get involved in it here. Suffice to say that I don't agree with it. Anyway, that's just my take, and that's Percy snoring. I don't know why he's really snoring that loud, because, oh, all right, fair enough. That's how interesting my beer reviews are. You wait till I open it, he'll perk up. I'm sort of treading water here for the minute because there really isn't much substance on the brewery website, so again, I'm probably going to have to sort of skip to the next section. But just suffice to say, these are a relatively new brewer, so this will be really interesting to see what it tastes like. Right, okay, this is a 330ml bowl. It is 8%, and just looking at the sell by date, it's the 6th, 2025. So that's got a 2-year shelf life. It doesn't say. I'm just looking on the ingredients here. There's no brew sheet. The ingredients just say water, barley, malt, sugar, hops, spices, yeast. Yeah, that's pretty much what you get from Belgian Trappist beers. They like, the Belgians in general like using the adjuncts, as do the English, or the British, I should say. So that's nothing new. I just want to show you the genuine Trappist, not trademark, but oh, come on, you tosser. There it is. So if you don't see that on a beer and it's got Trappist written on it, it ain't a genuine Trappist unless it's got that stamp of it. And if you look at all the others, such as Rochefort, Chimay, who's the other Trappist, Le Trap, of course, then you're going to see that mark on there. And even Spencer as well. I know there are some Spencer beers still around, and I've actually reviewed some of the Spencer beers on the channel, and they weren't too bad actually, but they were doing stuff like IPAs and they were using American hops, so it wasn't your traditional like Belgian / Netherlands Trappist stuff, but it was brewed by genuine Trappist monks. And now sadly I think it's gone under, and I think they sort of started to run before they could walk with the brewery. They invested a hell of a lot of money and it just didn't have the returns. Percy, will you stop snoring? And that's about it really. There's the bottle, nice purple bottle. As I say, they only do 2 beers, the other one is a quadruple, that's 10% quadruple. So yeah, that's about it. Oh, just in case you're wondering, de Kievit is the name of the farm, Brewery de Kievit, and Kievit in Belgian, or in Flemish I should say, means lapwing, which is a type of bird. So there you go. Let's get it open, let's see what's going on. Right, looking forward to this. And just on my last comment, there is the cap, which, since I moved this room around, autofocus has decided to get fucking worse and worse. Come on, you can do it. Really, this fucking Sony EOS camera, it really is pony. There it is, that's a depiction of a lapwing on there. Put that down there. One for the collection, yeah. I've got a mug there with a load of caps in it. I might do that as a giveaway if someone's interested. So yeah, watch this space. Let's get into the ye olde glass. Now again, this is bottle conditioned, I'm assuming. Oh, that's a lovely colour. Look at that. Ignore the dirty glass, but that is a lovely colour. Quite, and the aroma, Jesus, that is really strong. Oh, it smells lovely. I'm going to get the whole lot in here because like wheat beers, this is bottle conditioned, and I want to get the yeast in here because the yeast really is an integral part of these beers. And also, because of the high ABV, the head isn't going to go too far. It's going to dissipate quite quickly, so I want to get that all in there. It looks lovely. That's a really dark, for a triple, that is really dark. Normally triples are lighter than that, and you're probably seeing it darker on camera, but when you hold it up to the light, it is sort of an orange colour. But the aroma is huge. Oh, it smells absolutely gorgeous. Quite fruity, like orange zest. But there's some spice on there as well. Some nice white pepper, a little bit of clove. But it's coriander. A little touch of malt on there as well, like grainy malt. It smells absolutely amazing, really nice. Everything you'd expect from a decent triple, in my opinion. Oh, that really is lovely. Oh, I could sit here all day sniffing this beer, which is really strange because most people just fucking drink it. So let's do that. Good health. Oh, it's lovely. Oh, it's really good. Oh, it's lovely. And I've just noticed quite a lot of yeast sediment at the bottom, so that's why I had to get the whole lot in there in one hit. but it's really good. Let me dive in again. Now, here's one for you. Normally on these triples, the first mouthful you have to write off. It's just ethanol, and your palate needs to adjust to that really strong ethanol flavour. Once it's adjusted, your second mouthful, your third mouthful, it really does bring out all the flavours. But I was getting the flavours from the first mouthful, so that just goes to show that there isn't a huge, in my opinion, seam of ethanol. Percy, would you stop snoring? You're making me sound even more boring than I already am. I can't get over that aroma. It's so good. It's lovely orange zest in that as well. Orange zest and clove. So good. Let me dive in again. Carbonation is quite aggressive. I am getting that real abrasive note on the back of my throat on there, but what I do notice is that the finish is quite bitter from the hops, and they're quite, I imagine they've been put in quite early, because there is a real, I wouldn't say oily bitterness, but a really good hop level of hop bitterness on there, you know, akin to a really strong Czech Pilsner. Palate seems to be adjusting now, and there is a little element of caramel malt on there, but this is all about the spice and the hop bitterness on the finish. That's really what I'm getting. It's quite a bitter beer, if you can imagine that. Now there is, as they say on the ingredients, there will be some invert sugar on here, or candy sugar as it's known in Belgium. Yeah, two things that are really prominent on this beer. If I had to describe it with two adjectives: bitter and abrasive. And the abrasion is coming from the carbonation. That really is quite aggressive carbonation. You can't really see that in the glass, but fuck me, you can get that on the palate. And I mean, it's not just detracting from the beer, but it's not making it as smooth as it should be. This is a real, probably in a good way. It's not one of these guzzlers, and triples aren't guzzlers anyway. But you do occasionally get one that's really smooth, and you know, certainly I have in the past. I've had to control myself drinking it. Percy, Jesus wept, mate. What is wrong with you? Can't be that tired. You've done fuck all. He's dreaming now. He's just woken up. I wonder what he was dreaming about. Probably barking at something as usual. Well, let's go again. That initial enthusiasm I have has sort of given way now to, it's quite bitter. And when I say quite bitter, I mean genuinely bitter. I mean it's bordering on one of the bitterest triples that I've ever tried. But it's not bad. But to be honest, I think one would be my limit with this. It's quite rich, and the bitterness is long lasting, and it's not cloying, but it does remain in the mouth for quite a long time. And I definitely couldn't try two of these. It would really just be too much flavour intensity on that, and I'm probably going to call it a day with that one, because it's getting to the stage now where that aggressive carbonation and the real hop bitter finish on it is, I wouldn't say a chore, but it's making me really slow my drinking down, and again, which is not a bad thing, and really savouring the flavours that are in here, but it's just real spicy bitterness and hop bitterness. Carbonation seems to have calmed down a little bit, and it isn't as abrasive as it was. And again, this comes back to a point I made recently about looking on the craft beer channel. If you've ever looked on there, they're really good, and they don't just do craft beer. And one of the fellas from there, I can't remember his name, but he was doing a test, and he was taking sort of one mouthful out of each and making a decision on the flavour. I really don't think you can do that from one mouthful unless it's an exceptionally bad beer that you don't want to drink again. And them cases are rare, or it's got flavours that you just don't like immediately. So some people don't like sour beer. If you drink a beer and it's sour, like a lambic or whatever, if you're not a fan of lambic and you drink a blindfold test, you drink a lambic, and immediately you're not going to carry on drinking it. But I really think with other beers, you really need to sort of go halfway down. At the very start of this, I was quite enthusiastic. There was a lot of flavours, but it's sort of turned into a bitter fest, if you know what I mean, and not in a good way. Well, I'm saying that this isn't a bad beer. It's a relatively pleasant triple. However, I did have high hopes for this because, as I say, they only do 2 beers, and I thought, this was going to be another Tint Meadow, but with a triple. And to be honest, I'm a little bit disappointed. It certainly doesn't really, in my opinion, certainly doesn't compare with the stuff that Le Trap do, another Netherlands Trappist brewer. So, by the way, the glasses, they're, my missus got, I think, 4 pairs for £8 off Amazon, and they actually ain't bad. I can see out of them, and they're the strongest ones, 3.5. I'm in the Last Chance Saloon with the old fucking mince pies. So next stop is Ye Oldie Optician. Let's go again. And to be honest, me talking about my eyes and fucking Percy dreaming is sort of indicative of the beer. The beer really isn't enthusing me that much from the really lovely aromas that were picked up initially. I wouldn't say I'm struggling, but it's just the bitterness is really, really intense on here. Yeah. I'll just say it's okay. To be honest, I don't think this is certainly not the best Trappist triple I've tried, and definitely not the best triple that I've tried. I mean, there are some fantastic triples down here. Straf Hendrik, Fort Lapin are 2 that immediately springs to mind. On the Trappist side, of course, Le Trap, for me, one of the most consistent Trappist brewers going. I don't think I've had a bad beer from them. They really are excellent. Rochefort, again, another good Trappist triple, and Chimay, of course, in my opinion, are probably the best, and their triple is probably the best as well that I've tried in terms of Trappist beer. I'm not going to include other non-Trappist brewers' triples in my selection here. This is strictly just for Trappist brewers, because you have to remember, Trappist brewers they're not really a commercial enterprise. They do it so they can live. It's not all about the profit, and well, no pun intended, but they do it as a means of sustenance rather than a means of conquering the world with their fantastic beer. So I think they've got very noble intentions, if you can understand what I mean by that. It's not all about the marketing, as you can see by the bottles. I mean, to be honest, when you see a bottle like that, you know that there's no marketing department in there. There's no, you don't see pictures of monks on there. The ones where you see the monks are, you know that they're commercial brewers, and they've had some marketing twat say, "Oh, let's put a monk on there to make out we're, like some kind of abbey brewery or Trappist brewery," but they're not. You find on all of them, Tint Meadow is the perfect example. It's the most Spartan, conservative labelling on a bottle that you can find. and it belies what the beer tastes like. It really does. I mean, it's a marketing person would have a field day if they realised how good the beer was, and they were putting out such a, I wouldn't say boring, but Spartan. It just tells you the name, the percentages, the bare bones basically is what you get, and I love that. You know, there's none of this marketing flim flam, and you know me, I fucking hate marketing. Anyway, let's get back to this beer. Final analysis. I'm rambling. Yeah, flavours have died down now. The clove, the spiciness is there. It's a bit subdued. The bitterness on the end is not as intense as it was when the carbonation was in the glass. Everything seems to have, I wouldn't say fallen flat, but just evened itself out a little bit, if you know what I mean. And it's not a bad Trappist beer. It sounds like I was bashing it. It's not a bad Trappist triple. It's just, for me, it doesn't compare with the others. I don't think it's got the history and the pedigree to be better than them. But I'm not knocking it. I mean, if you was there on a day trip, I could drink this. This wouldn't be bad, but it would just be one. And I want to try that quadruple. It's not going to put me off the quadruple, because quadruple is a really nice style, and I love my dark beers compared to, you know, certainly with Belgian stuff. Is if you're talking dark beers, doubles and quadruples are my favourite. So I'm going to try and seek that out. I got this from the House of Trembling Madness, so I'm going to check out and see if they've got the quadruple. But yeah, for me, this is okay, but it just doesn't compare with the other Trappists. So what is the verdict on Zundert 8 Tripel from Brewery de Kievit? I think that's how it's pronounced. Kievit means lapwing. Yeah, I had sort of high hopes for this because they only do 2 beers. However, they are a relatively young brewery in that they've only been going since 2012, and I think that kind of shows in the beer. When you become a Trappist brewer, you have a, I mean, I know why they do it. As I just mentioned in the previous section, they do it to sustain themselves, and they do other things as well. So a lot of them do cheese, a lot of them brew beer, some do both, and they have other things as well that they do to sustain them. And it's not about commercial gain, it's about sustaining what they do, and you know, their faith is their main thing. The brewing is, I'd say it's secondary, but don't get me wrong, there are some absolutely fantastic Trappist brewers out there. For me, the 2 best, in my opinion, Chimay for me are the best. Really top drawer beers, all of them really are superb. And Le Trap as well, for me, are the most consistent one. Every single beer that comes from them is really good. Chimay, yeah, their beers are all good, but they have some absolutely outstanding beers as well. Zundert, I think they've got a bit of a way to go to live up to that kind of competition, if you know what I mean. But they don't see it as competition. They just, as long as people go to the brewery or the monastery, I should say, or even buy it from the House of Trembling Madness like I do, it supports them, and that's all they care about. And this beer, I think, is a beer that I probably wouldn't buy again, because simply for the fact that there are better triples out there, better Trappist triples as well. Let me just see how much this was, because I did get this from the House of Madness, and hopefully the House of Trembling Madness give you a price list. Yeah, so that's £4.20 for a triple, and if you're going to be paying that for that, and Chimay are doing their triple in Morrison's for £3, yeah, I don't think that's gonna win the day, to be honest. Little fun fact for you: I didn't mention it. Zundert is actually the birthplace of Vincent van Gogh and his brother Theodore van Gogh. And if you're an American, that's Van Gogh, as you lot pronounce it. Stop doing that. It's fucking wrong. It's Van Gogh. It's Flemish. It's not American. Stop putting your stupid fucking pronunciations onto people's names. I won't tell you what they called me when I went over there. My name's Kieran. So there you go. Anyway, rant over. It's okay. I'll finish that, and that'll be nice. And I'll say it's just an okay, but there are better out there. I'm going to give that. I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10, and the reason I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10 is, as I just said, there are better beers or better Trappist triples out there. £4.20 is a big ask, especially in this day and age when people are struggling for 330ml. I know it's Trappist, but I just don't think £4.20 warrants that beer. And also, yeah, it's just your value for money. You need a little bit more, and it's lacking in both quantity and quality. Just promised really big things when I opened it up, and the aromas were huge and they were really nice. Sadly, it didn't really translate into the beer, which happens sometimes, but it's a shame. Could have been great, but it's not bad. So 6.5 I think is a fair mark for that. So there you go, that's Zundert 8 from Brewery de Kievit. And remember, beer is working class champagne.